welcome to Destination Deanna. I'm Deanna, love guide to all and kept wife strategist to the women I'm called to serve. Please consider my channel your self-help learning library for love. Join me every Monday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time for our weekly coaching gem, where I give guidance to elevate your love experience. And on Wednesdays at 1 p.m., tune in for Sounds About Wife, where I give my unique wife perspective and prepare professional women like you to become kept wives. So hit that subscribe button and let's start this love journey together. See you soon, my loves. Welcome back. Welcome back to this week's episode of Sounds About Wife. I am your host, Deanna, love guide to all, but kept wife strategist to those I'm called to serve. So, welcome, Kepties. How y'all doing? Let me see who's in the comments. Oh, honey, thank you for always being here to support. Hey, Kepty Alice. Jamila, I'm so glad you're on. Hey. So let me get right to it, right? Let me get right to the topic at hand. The true cost of marriage, which is really sacrifice and reward. So, welcome into the Keptiverse, where the lessons are constructed to help you on your journey to captivity. And I'm going to get started with my treasure. My treasure is actually my personal share that's related to the topic. It lets you know firsthand, I know what I'm talking about. But it really is designed to kind of put your guard down. So, you know, I'm just like you, right? I may be a guide. I may be a strategist. That is what I'm doing by means of profession. But at the end of the day, I'm a woman. I've had the same struggles. I've been through the same things, right? So I'm going to share so you know I can relate, right? So first of all, let me thank my husband because he gave me permission to talk about this today. I never want to, in doing this work, I share a lot about my personal feelings and things that's going on. But by means of him being my husband, I share about him also. And yesterday, my husband and I were not in alignment as we usually are. We were definitely in what we would call heated fellowship. Heated fellowship all day long yesterday. And I can only speak for me personally, but it was like one of our worst days. Not because there was any violence, disrespect, or anything like that. There was not. We always hold each other in the highest of regard, but we just were missing the mark on alignment, on being on the same page, right? Operating in the highest of godliness. We were missing the mark. And it really cost us a day of being close, a day of romantic and intimate time and just relating throughout the day. And that's a cost that we both agree we never want to pay ever again, right? And it started in the morning. We just missed the mark. We missed a couple of cues for each other. And we missed the opportunity to course correct. When things are not going the way you want them to, don't continue down the road. Don't add on to it. You wanna try to course correct, right? And instead, we just kind of joined each other on the negative road. And for me, from my perspective, after many failed attempts at using my feminine defaults, I abandoned that and totally allowed myself to get caught up in my feelings and feelings of offense. When in reality, I should have remained in my wife posture and supported my husband and tried even harder to relate to him and get to a point of alignment. And I think for my husband, he abandoned his normal posture of composed masculine leadership. And this is why it's so important for us as individuals to operate our own lanes, right? I occupy and operate in the feminine, and he operates and navigates from the masculine. Thank you, honey. Never again. Alignment is always there for the engaging. Yes, it is. And as you can see, we've made up. No, but really, how God works is we actually had a coaching session with a client that night, and it forced us to have to get past our personal things and really focus on serving, right? So that was the sacrifice we had to make. The sacrifice was, I can't stay stuck in my feelings right now because our marriage is not just for us, right? We have someone to support, and we were able to do that. Um, and as God would have it, the client actually told us, like, we are their evidence of a healthy marriage. We are their example. We give them hope. Talk about feeling totally convicted. Totally convicted. Someone is looking at you and saying, you're my example. You are the evidence that there are healthy marriages. Meanwhile, y'all low-key beef. Meanwhile. So why do I share this? I share this because when I tell you I live what I teach, I mean it. Not just in the good and perfect moments that I share, but I also share the things that I have difficulty with sometimes. And, femininity is at the core of what I teach. So I want to be clear that I'm not always perfect, right? I too have to remind myself of the lessons I teach. I too have to go back and make sure that feminine is my default. So in this particular case, it cost me and my husband the day, right? But we ended up making a sacrifice, supporting my client, and making up after and talking about what happened and making sure that we don't ever have that happen again. So in general, that was my share, right? So in general, I remember in the beginning of marriage really feeling like, it's mainly about financial aspects, and it's about like paying the bills and running the household together. But there's a deeper cost. The deeper cost is the time, the emotional investment, the sacrifices required. That's the real lesson. Okay. When you are married, you give up pieces of your independence, your comfort zone. But in return, you get something far greater. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. Understanding the true cost of marriage and why it's worth every single sacrifice. Okay. So now let's get into the points you want to know, right? Today's treasure. And this is the core lesson and why it matters, right? So if you're going to take notes, now would be the time to actually take the notes. Okay. So number one, sacrificing independence for interdependence. Okay. So in singleness, we make decisions for ourselves, right? But marriage calls for a merging of lives and priorities, right? There's a shift from I do it this way to how do we do it? right? It could be as small as my husband and I are still trying to figure out morning routines. He does one thing in the morning, I do one thing in the morning. But as we're merging our lives, we have to figure out, well, what do we do in the morning? Do I have to adjust this particular thing? Does he have to adjust this particular thing? How do we meet both of our needs within this particular thing? Right? So, in this shift from independence to interdependence, each partner sacrifices certain freedoms for the sake of the union. Now, when you hear other people talk about this who are not married, by the way, you'll often hear like, what you're giving up, what isn't the same, like the negative lens of it. But in reality, it's an opportunity to create something completely new. Instead of his way, her way, it becomes our way. And you figure out a way to meet both of your needs, right? And in the Bible, in Philippians 2, verses 3 and 4, it teaches us to value others above ourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. That's completely what marriage is about. There's no more I. It's all about we, us, ours, right? And statistically, research shows that couples who practice mutual decision making, meaning I think about it, you think about it, we come together, we figure out how to make this decision together. Couples who practice mutual decision making are 30% more likely to report greater marital satisfaction. And this is from the Pew Research Center 2020. So that backs up that point. Everybody saying, hey. So number two is emotional labor, right? It's a sacrifice beyond the financial. So that's number two, emotional labor, which is a sacrifice beyond the financial. So yes, paying bills is important, finances is important, but marriage is not just about that, right? It's also about the emotional cost, the emotional availability, the mental load of supporting one another, nurturing your husband and building a home where peace reigns. Well, this requires emotional investment. Now, in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4 through 7, it tells us, love is patient, love is kind, right? We know this verse, we've heard it, right? But this is a blueprint for what you're going to have to live out in marriage. So get comfortable, right? A survey by the American Psychological Association found that emotional support is actually one of the top 3 factors contributing to marital success. So yes, financial stability is there. It's in the top 3 as well. But emotional support, which actually is what I hear from a lot of women when they have concerns or fears about allowing a husband to provide. A lot of them are like, well, when I relinquish that, I don't get the same emotional support. So I just want to report that it contributes to marital success with couples who actually are good at emotional support. They're reporting a 20% increase in marital satisfaction. So when the emotional needs are met within the marriage, couples are reporting at least 20% more satisfaction. So it's clearly an important factor. Now, number 3, the cost of time and energy. Time and energy. So when you're single, time is your own, right? You do what you want. You have your own schedule. You don't really have to consider anyone else. But in marriage, prioritizing your relationship requires intentionality with your time and your energy, right? It's not just going to happen on its own. Good marriages do not just happen. They are intentionally built. The couples that you see that you're like, wow, that's great. I love how he loves on her. I love how she supports him. I love how they love each other. Trust me, that is an intentional marriage. They intentionally date each other. They intentionally make sure that they are providing emotional support. They are intentionally connecting. They are intentionally being physical with each other regularly. These are intentional acts, right? And Ephesians 5:16 encourages us to make the most of every opportunity, right? So this applies to how we invest in our marriages. You cannot just coexist. You must actively nurture your connection, your marriage. And on average, couples who spend at least 1 hour of intentional quality time together daily, so that's 1 hour every day, they are 60% more likely to report greater emotional intimacy. And when you have greater emotional intimacy, everything else in your marriage improves. You can have easier conversations about finance. You can parent the children more in alignment and together. You have less disagreements. Okay. Now, number 4, and I'm only covering 5 today. Number 4 is physical sacrifices. So, for my kepties, this is caring for your keeper. Now, as a kept wife, this is where I get specific, right? It's not just about, the financial obligations and those needs being met. It's also about us making sacrifices that support our husband mentally, emotionally, and physically, right? Marriage requires giving up some personal preferences to create a nurturing environment for the both of you, more specifically for your keeper husband, right? So Proverbs 31, verse 27 speaks to this. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. There's always something that could use your attention. And I'm not talking about being this doing machine. We already know that I teach the focus on being, your being, the essence of your being as a woman. So when I say there's always something that could use your focus, if it's the energy in the house, what are you doing to improve your energy? If everyone is jittery, if everyone is disorganized, that should be an indication that you need to rest, relax. You need to look at how you are showing up. What is your energy? That's in your being. Your being is what encourages the atmosphere. Your being is what's going to inspire your husband, right? Your being is what is actually going to teach your children about their behavior and how they should show up. Okay. Now, husbands who feel physically and emotionally cared for are 45% more likely to demonstrate higher levels of emotional support and leadership in the marriage. And this is from the Gottman Institute. What do we talk about, ladies? We say we want leaders, right? And we say we want the emotional support of our husbands. Well, guess what? Men are reporting 45% more likely when they are getting physical and emotional needs met by their wife. So if you are a kepti, you are aspiring to be a kept wife. This is something you should be mastering now. You should be thinking about, how am I, like my being, how is that going to aid in the atmosphere? How is that going to inspire my keeper husband to show up for me emotionally? And I see comments. Let me get to those. You just be making it. Hey, Carly. Yes, indeed. That's why we are human beings, not human doings. One of my favorite things to say. Women more specifically and especially focus on your being. Okay? Now, The final one in today's treasure, our lesson, number 5, the payoff. This is security, partnership, and legacy. This is the ultimate payoff. We've talked a lot about the cost. What does it cost in marriage? Yes, there are some things that change. There are sacrifices that need to be made. But here's the payoff. When you sacrifice the me for the we, you gain a deeper level of partnership and you create a secure foundation for your family and a legacy to leave behind. Now, in Ephesians 5, verse 25 through 28, it speaks of a husband loving his wife as Christ loves the church. That is an emphasis on the mutual rewards there and sacrifice in marriage. Christ gave his life. He made that ultimate sacrifice for the church. And the husband is called to love the wife in that same spirit, in that same vein, right? So that is mutually beneficial for the husband, for the wife, for the children, for the legacy. And studies show that 85%, that's huge, 85% of couples who work together to build a shared vision and purpose experience more long-term relationship satisfaction. And that's from the Journal of Marriage and Family 2019. So when you hear these couples after 20, 30 years apart, they clearly did not have a foundation of shared vision. That's the only way you grow apart. You grow apart when there isn't a shared vision and purpose for the marriage. If you just got married because you were lonely, if you just got married because you got pregnant and you all have a child, if you just got married because you were sad and grieving and this is the person that came along and they offered comfort, so you attached. If you just got married because that person looked good on your arm, if you just got married because that person had money and they bought you things, it will not last. I don't care how long it does last. It will not go the long haul. It will not last the forever. It will not last the till death do us part. The only death that'll be parting you is the death of the marriage. And I'm speaking that from experience. When you do not have a shared vision and a shared purpose, your relationship, your marriage is doomed. So heed this warning. And as you build with a shared purpose and vision in mind. It's not enough to like each other. It's not enough to be physically attracted. It's not enough to enjoy each other's company. It's simply not enough. Look, definitely married after grief over my father's death. And marriage was horrible, ended badly. Yeah, because that's we bond like that. And you're not alone. There's so many people that you don't realize this is what you're doing as it's happening, but you realize it later, right? So now what's our lens? Okay, here in the Kepti verse, we have a Kepti lens, and that is our mindset. That is our perspective shift because we do not have the same lens as the commoners, as the masses. We are set apart. We are set apart. So in this case, the Kepti mindset is all about focusing on what you gain in marriage rather than what you lose. Let the commoners talk about what they lose. We focus on what we're gaining, right? Sacrifices are not losses. They are investments in your future. Every time you choose your husband's needs or your marriage over a personal desire, you're laying another brick in the foundation of a lifelong partnership. And why can I say this to you? I can say this to you because we are not choosing partners that are not worthy of this respect, of this sacrifice, of this adoration, of this honor. We are choosing keeper husbands who warrant this type of behavior. Okay? It's about transforming, the idea of sacrifice from something that takes away to something that builds. That's our Kepti lens. And remember, a keeper is looking for a woman who can make those investments without resentment. She's not holding this over his head. She's not keeping an account for all of the things that she's done. No, he wants to know that what she's doing this, knowing that what comes back to her is greater than what she gives. Whew. So now that we know what our lens is, right? We know what our lens is. Let me see. Hey, Mr. Will. All right, y'all are talking. So now what's the Kepti consideration? Okay, so here is where I want you to personalize this lesson. I want you to reflect on the things I'm saying and think about how they've shown up in your life. Think about the examples that you have. The only way you're going to see improvement in your life is if you take these lessons that I'm teaching and you actually look at yourself, look inward and see how you can apply them. Now, working with me is really the cheat code because I'm going to help you do that at an even deeper level. But until you do that, you can do this on your own. Reflect on what I'm teaching, and to take it to the next level, journal. Journal your thoughts about this. So I'm going to give you today 5 particular journal prompts, questions for you to meditate on and for you to journal. Okay? And this is the Kepti consideration. Number 1, am I willing to shift from an independent mindset to an interdependent one, where I prioritize the needs of my future marriage and husband? This is the kept wife preparation, okay? Am I willing to shift from an independent mindset to an interdependent one, where I prioritize the needs of my future marriage and husband? Number 2, how am I preparing to meet the emotional, mental, and spiritual needs of a future marriage beyond the financial aspects? So we've already said financial provision, that's the floor, okay? Like that's bare minimum, that's basic. We expect that already. We're not going to keep talking about it. I mean, I'll remind you, but let's graduate, right? We already expect that. That's coming. What beyond that? So how am I preparing to meet the emotional, mental, and spiritual needs of a future marriage beyond that? Number 3, in what ways can I practice sacrificing my time, energy, or personal comfort now, so I'm ready to build a secure, lasting partnership? Let me tell you, the things you don't practice in your singleness will definitely present barriers, distractions, stumbling blocks in your marriage. So start seeing your single season as opportunity to prepare. It's not this lonely time. It's not this God-forsaken time that you want to be over. It's the opportunity to really prepare yourself so that marriage is more seamless. You don't want to be learning these things on the job. You don't. You want to get some of this already worked out in your singleness as you prepare. Okay, long-term married. Hey sis, I agree. Marriage is working and sacrifice. Absolutely. And here's my honey. Deeper level of introspection. Major revelation that won't harm you. Thank you, honey. You always add such good stuff. All right, so number 4. Do I truly understand the value of my future keeper's role? And am I prepared to nurture him in a way that fuels both his purpose and ours together? Do I truly understand the value of my future keeper's role? Right? He's to love you as Christ loved the church. That means his entire being is about sacrificial love for you. Do you understand that role? Do you understand the value of it? If you did, you would be on deck with the nurture, on deck with the respect, on deck with the honor, right? So, do I truly understand the value of my future keeper's role? And am I prepared to nurture him in a way that fuels both his purpose and ours together? Yep, you turn the I and me into we. Absolutely. And number 5, how can I align my current priorities with the long term vision of marriage as a partnership rooted in mutual sacrifice and legacy building? How can I align my current priorities? So, what are you prioritizing? And how would that change? How would that need to shift in a marriage? And how can you begin to already prepare your life for long term visions, for including your keeper husband? Now, of course, after I give you what to consider, what to think about, what to journal on, I'm the kept wife strategist. So I'm going to give you this strategy. And because I know I have some already married, some already kept wives, and I have some aspiring, right? The Kepti strategy is going to be the practical tips for you to put this lesson into work in your life immediately. And here's what I want from you all. I need to start hearing back from you. After you put the strategy into play, come back, leave me a comment, and let me know how it worked. Let me know the praise reports, okay? So, for my already marrieds, I want you to have an honest conversation with your husband about the ways you both sacrifice for each other in the marriage. This is not a time. I'm okay. No, thank you. that's housekeeping. This is not a time to keep score. It's not a time to elevate yourself above your spouse. No, it's an opportunity to just kind of lay your cards on the table, show them some appreciation, some praise for what they're doing, allow them to do the same for you, but be honest about it, right? The ways in which you both are sacrificing for each other in the marriage. And this should help you identify areas where you might need to give more, whether that's emotionally, spiritually, or physically. For men, that might be financially. Create a plan together, for how to support each other's goals, intentions, aspirations while keeping your marriage strong. That is going to help both of you have individual satisfaction and receive the support so that you can show up more in your marriage. Now, for my women who are desiring marriage, my aspiring Kepties, right? Start practicing now. Look at the way you manage your time and your energy. Are you prepared to share that with a keeper? Think about the emotional investment you're willing to make in a future husband and your home. Consider how you can start making sacrifices in other areas of your life now. So when your marriage comes, you're ready to build something lasting. The last thing you want to do is meet, attract your keeper husband, and there's no room for him. There's no room for him to build. And everyone can do this. Have more spiritual alignment. The biggest mistake that I think my husband and I made the other day when we were having our heated fellowship is we didn't stop to say, let's realign spiritually, right? So you want to get in the posture of praying for clarity and strength in understanding the cost of love, okay? Ask God to reveal to you areas in your life where you can practice sacrifice and where you might need to shift your priorities. In Luke 6:38, it says, "Give and it will be given to you." Right? So apply this to your marriage mindset and know that the more you pour into your spouse, your husband, the greater the return on your investment in love and partnership. Okay. So now I'm going to open it up. You have the strategy. I've given you the consideration. Now I'll open it up for the Kepti chat. Let me know if you have any questions about anything I covered today. If you have any situations going on that you'd like a little advice or support on. And let me check the comments already. This is important and powerful. Thank you. It really is. And I love how God works through real life experience. You know, one of the things that I proudly profess all the time is that I live what I teach. And when I say that, it doesn't mean I have perfected everything. It does not mean I am perfect in these ways. It just means I have received the revelation about how to master these things, and I am actively doing it. And I have mastered it to a point that now I can share it. Now I can support others through their mastery of it. But I'm always going to be honest with you. I'm always going to tell you, hey, this is still an area. This is still an area for me. This is something I'm still working on. Okay. Any questions? Any comments? Any concerns? Y'all know how I do. When y'all don't got questions, I'll be like, ooh, I must have taught that thing. I taught that thing good. They ain't got no questions. So if you're new here, Sounds About Wife is my show that comes on every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. And it is the unique wife perspective coming from a kept wife, going to other aspiring kepties. If you want to be a keptie, you can start with a t-shirt. Go to destinationdiana.com and there is a link under my shop. You can actually pick up. We have a limited edition. There's only a few available. Once they are ordered, it's gone, and I don't know if or when I would allow other people to purchase them, because really I was reserving these for my clients. But I have so many supporters that are like, I'm a Kepti too. You know, I'm a Kepti. So I'm giving you the opportunity to be a part of the Keptis, not the commoners. Okay, so take advantage. Yes, I did. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So here we go. In closing, yeah, I told you can get your limited edition tea, Kepti, infused with my energy, my prayers to attract your keeper so you can live the kept wife life as well. But comment came. Okay. You got to get back to work. I'm going to call your desk in a few minutes, baby. Love you. Thank you. All right. So, kept wives are prepared women, right? And prepared women, they have strategy. And if you want the winning strategy, you come to the Kept Wife Strategist. So, I will see you all next week for another episode of Sounds About Wife. Love you all.